After a long meal, there's one thing we all dread: staring down a sink full of greasy pans and plates. And in that moment, the only thing standing between you and a spotless kitchen is your dish soap. But here's the catch: not all dish soaps are created equal. In fact, one of the biggest names on the shelf might be leaving grease behind, and you don't even realize it. Two brands dominate the dishwashing world: Dawn and Palmolive. Both promise to cut through tough grease, both claim to keep your hands happy, and both are sitting side by side at your local store, daring you to pick them. But when you strip away the marketing slogans, which one actually delivers a cleaner sink, and which one makes you work twice as hard? Some swear by Dawn, pointing to its wildlife-saving commercials and grease-fighting reputation. Others stay loyal to Palmolive, praising its softer feel and classic kitchen presence. But the truth is, one of these soaps may not be living up to the hype. In this honest comparison, we're putting Dawn and Palmolive through real tests: grease-cutting power, suds longevity, gentleness on hands, scent, and overall value for money. By the end, you'll know exactly which bottle deserves to sit on your counter, and which one might just be leaving grease behind. Before we dive into the results, let's set the ground rules. If we're going to compare Dawn and Palmolive fairly, every test has to be done under the same conditions. No bias, no shortcuts, just soap versus grease. Here's how we'll do it. First, we'll test grease cutting power using the same kind of challenge every kitchen faces: a pan coated in cooking oil and a plate streaked with bacon residue. Both soaps will get equal amounts of water, equal sponge scrubbing, and the same number of pumps to see who really cuts through grease faster. Next, we'll move on to suds and lather longevity. Because dish soap isn't just about cleaning one plate, it's about powering through a whole sink full. We'll track how many dishes each soap can clean before the bubbles start fading, and the sponge needs another squeeze. We'll also test gentleness on hands. Dishwashing isn't just about spotless plates, it's about not wrecking your skin. Dawn has a reputation for being gentle. They even use it on rescued wildlife, while Palmolive markets itself as tough on grease, soft on hands. We'll see who lives up to the promise. Finally, we'll review scent, overall user experience, and price per ounce. Because the right dish soap isn't just about power, it's about value and everyday comfort. With the rules set, it's time to put these two kitchen heavyweights to the test. At the end of the day, the number one job of dish soap is simple: cut through grease. So we started with the ultimate test: a frying pan coated in oil and a plate streaked with bacon fat. Equal pumps, equal water temperature, equal scrubbing. No excuses. First up, Dawn. The moment it hits the sponge, you notice how quickly it spreads. A single pump creates a slick lather that clings to grease instead of just sliding off. On the pan, Dawn breaks down the oil almost immediately. After a few wipes, the sponge is gliding across a squeaky clean surface. No slippery residue, no need to go back over spots twice. It feels efficient, almost like Dawn has more concentrated power packed into every drop. Now, Palmolive. It's not weak, let's make that clear. A pump of Palmolive foams up nicely, and it does attack the grease, but not as aggressively. On the same bacon-streaked plate, it took noticeably more scrubbing to get the same clean feel. Some patches still felt slippery after the first pass, and the sponge needed more soap to keep going. Palmolive does get the job done, but it takes more time, more effort, and more product. Here's the honest takeaway: if you're battling heavy grease, Dawn has the edge. It lifts oil faster, leaves dishes squeaky sooner, and makes you feel like you're working with a concentrated cleaner. Palmolive, while reliable, lags behind. You'll clean the plate, but you'll probably need extra pumps to get there. So round one goes to Dawn for pure grease-cutting muscle. Cutting grease is step one, but what about powering through a whole sink of dishes? That's where suds and lather longevity come in. Nobody wants to keep pumping soap every 2 minutes just to finish dinner cleanup. Starting with Dawn, one pump foams up quickly, and the bubbles hold strong. Even after scrubbing multiple plates in a greasy pot, the lather stays alive in the sponge. You don't feel like you're constantly reloading. In fact, Dawn seems to stretch farther. That concentrated formula lets you clean more dishes before the sponge goes flat. Now Palmolive. The suds are nice at first. Thick and bubbly, but they fade quicker. After a few dishes, especially if they're greasy, the foam starts thinning out. The sponge feels like it needs another squeeze of soap to stay effective. Palmolive can absolutely handle a normal dish load, but if you've got a pile of cookware, expect to pump more often. So in terms of efficiency, Dawn takes this round. It not only cuts grease faster, but also keeps the suds working longer, which means fewer pauses and less soap used overall. Palmolive holds its own for light to medium loads, but struggles under heavier dish duty. If you've ever done dishes without gloves, you know the struggle. Dry, tight skin that feels like it's been stripped raw. That's why gentleness on hands matters just as much as grease-cutting power. Let's start with Dawn. It has a strong reputation here, not just in kitchens, but in wildlife rescue efforts. You've probably seen commercials of ducklings or sea otters being cleaned with Dawn after oil spills, and honestly, that reputation is earned. After multiple rounds of dishwashing, Dawn doesn't leave your hands feeling overly dry or irritated. The formula feels balanced, tough on grease, but not harsh on skin. Now, Palmolive. For decades, Palmolive's slogan has been tough on grease, soft on hands. And it's true, Palmolive does feel a little gentler overall. After back-to-back washes, your skin feels softer compared to Dawn, almost like it has a conditioning effect. It's less drying, which could make a big difference for anyone with sensitive skin, or if you're washing dishes several times a day. So here's the breakdown. Dawn manages to protect your hands while staying powerful, but Palmolive takes a slight lead in comfort. If your main concern is keeping skin soft, Palmolive may feel like the better everyday choice. If you prioritize grease cutting first and skin second, Dawn still holds its ground. Washing dishes isn't anyone's favorite chore, so scent plays a bigger role than we admit. The aroma that rises from the sink can either make the task a little more pleasant or just add another layer of annoyance. Starting with Dawn. Its scent is usually light, fresh, and clean, never too heavy. Classic Dawn has that crisp, soapy fragrance that disappears quickly, which some people love because it doesn't linger on dishes or hands. Their newer scented versions, like apple blossom or pomegranate, still stay on the subtle side. Overall, Dawn feels like it's designed to get out of your way, do the job, leave things clean, and fade. Now, Palmolive. The difference is immediate. Palmolive has a bolder, stronger fragrance, one that lingers in the air and on your hands longer. Some people enjoy that extra fresh feeling, especially if they want the kitchen to smell pleasant after scrubbing greasy dishes. Others find it overpowering, almost perfumey, especially in smaller spaces. So which one wins here? It depends on preference. If you want a clean, subtle scent that vanishes as soon as the dishes are done, Dawn is your pick. If you enjoy a lasting fragrance that makes your kitchen smell fresher, Palmolive takes the crown. Power and scent are important, but dish soap is something you buy often, so price and value can't be ignored. Which brand actually gives you more clean dishes per dollar? Let's start with Dawn. A standard 19. 4-ounce bottle typically sells for around $3.99 to $4.49 in 2025, depending on the store. On a per-ounce basis, that's roughly 20 to 23 cents. Larger bottles and bulk packs at Costco or Sam's Club drop that cost significantly, closer to 12 to 15 cents per ounce. Because Dawn is concentrated, you end up using less per wash, which stretches the bottle further. In practice, a single pump often cleans multiple dishes before you need more. Now, Palmolive. A similar-sized bottle usually costs slightly less, around $3.49 to $3.99 for 20 ounces. That makes Palmolive look cheaper at first glance. Per ounce, it comes out closer to 17 to 20 cents, and bulk options can bring it down further. The catch? Palmolive isn't quite as concentrated as Dawn, meaning you often pump more to get the same cleaning effect. Over time, that can eat away at the initial savings. So the real difference in value comes down to efficiency. Dawn costs a little more up front, but stretches farther with fewer pumps, especially for heavy grease. Palmolive is lighter on the wallet at checkout, but may run out sooner if you're tackling messy cookware often. Verdict for value? If you're focused purely on price per bottle, Palmolive edges ahead. But if you calculate cost per wash, Dawn usually gives you more bang for your buck. To understand why this comparison matters, you have to look at the history behind these two brands. Both Dawn and Palmolive have been in American kitchens for decades, but they've built their reputations in very different ways. Dawn, created by Procter & Gamble in the 1970s, built its name not just on cleaning dishes, but also on saving wildlife. Their commercials of ducklings being scrubbed clean after oil spills are some of the most iconic in advertising history. That connection gave Dawn an image of trust, purity, and serious grease-fighting ability. Over the years, it became the go-to brand for people who wanted both strength and safety in one bottle. Palmolive, on the other hand, dates back even further. It was introduced in the late 1800s and became famous in the mid-20th century with the slogan, "Tough on grease, soft on hands." For generations, Palmolive was the soap moms swore by, gentle, pleasant-smelling, and dependable. It leaned into comfort and familiarity, positioning itself as the friendlier alternative to harsher soaps. Today, Dawn dominates in popularity and market share, while Palmolive holds on to its legacy of being kind to hands and home. This clash of brand images, strength versus softness, is exactly what makes this comparison so interesting. Now let's be real for a second. Dishwashing isn't glamorous. Nobody's bragging about scrubbing spaghetti sauce off a pan at 10 p.m. But here's where things get funny. Ask any family, and you'll find out people have strong opinions about dish soap. Some swear Dawn is the only real choice, while others insist Palmolive is the secret to keeping both dishes and hands happy. It gets wild. Couples argue in the cleaning aisle, roommates secretly switch brands, and yes, friendships have been tested over which soap sits next to the sink. And don't even get me started on the just add water to stretch the bottle people. You know who you are. So here's where you come in. Which team are you on? Are you Team Dawn, convinced nothing else touches grease the same way? Or are you Team Palmolive, loyal to the softer, gentler clean? Maybe you're a wild card and think the real answer is none of the above. Hello, 7th generation fans. Drop your pick in the comments, and let's see which soap reigns supreme in your kitchen. Warning, this could get spicier than a family debate over Thanksgiving turkey. So after all the scrubbing, rinsing, and sniff tests, where do Dawn and Palmolive land? On grease-cutting power, Dawn takes the crown. It slices through oil and grime faster and leaves surfaces squeaky clean with less effort. On suds longevity, Dawn also edges ahead, keeping bubbles alive longer and stretching farther per pump. But Palmolive doesn't go down easy. On gentleness to hands, it shines, leaving skin softer and less dry after repeated washes. On scent, it's also the more noticeable player, filling the kitchen with fragrance long after the dishes are done. When it comes to price and value, Palmolive looks cheaper up front, but Dawn's concentration means you use less over time. In other words, Palmolive wins the receipt battle, but Dawn often wins the long-term war. So what's the takeaway? If your priority is blasting through grease with minimal effort, Dawn is your best bet. If your priority is keeping hands soft and enjoying a pleasant, lingering scent, Palmolive is your ally. Neither soap is a failure, but one might be leaving you with more work than you realize. The right choice depends on what matters most in your kitchen. And there you have it. Dawn with its concentrated power and grease-busting strength, Palmolive with its softer touch and fragrance that lingers. Both soaps bring something valuable to the sink, but at the end of the day, one may be leaving you with extra scrubbing while the other saves you time and effort. Now I want to hear from you. Are you Team Dawn, the grease fighter trusted in kitchens and even oil spills? Or are you Team Palmolive, the classic brand that's gentle enough to make dish duty feel less harsh on your hands? Or maybe you've got a completely different favorite that deserves a shout-out. Drop your pick in the comments. I'll be watching to see which soap wins in your home. If you found this comparison helpful, don't stop here, because up next, we're tackling another household essential. Clorox wipes versus Lysol wipes. Which one fails to kill enough germs? You definitely don't want to miss that review. So hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the bell so you never miss another honest product comparison. Until then, keep your kitchen clean, your hands soft, and your dishes grease-free.